Army Men is a game series created by 3DO, which between the years of 1998 and 2002, a period of just 4 years, put out 19 separate games. Many of these had radically different ports and versions across different platforms like PC, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and Game Boy, leading to even more games developed by separate teams, all stacked under one release name. Across the short lifespan of this franchise, developers found time to include some odd and unusual things in some of the games, including at least one Easter egg that was a little bit more disturbing. I'm assuming you know what an iceberg chart is. Entries at the bottom are more obscure and noteworthy, entries at the top are more well-known or minor, etc., etc. So let's get into the iceberg. Nintendo 64 gift box under the tree. In the Nintendo 64 version of Sarge's Heroes 1, the living room mission takes place in a giant living room during Christmas. Well, more accurately, you're playing as a tiny plastic army man, and the living room is normal-sized. Anyways, it's Christmas. There's a Christmas tree wrapped presents. One of them is a Nintendo 64, complete with Mario and Bowser visible on the wrapping paper, alongside Fulgore from Killer Instinct. The Stormtrooper from Shadows of the Empire is missing though, likely due to licensing issues. Strange turtle in boot camp. In the original Army Men game, there's an image of a turtle visible in the boot camp level. According to the YouTuber Easter Egg Archive, it becomes visible after you beat the level for the first time. Lighting candles. In Sarge's Heroes 1, in the living room mission, there are a few candles laying around out of the way. If you hit them with an explosion from a grenade launcher, mortar, or bazooka, they will light and remain on fire. You cannot use a flamethrower for the same purpose, oddly enough. It's not something that makes it a difference in gameplay, just a neat little detail that they took the time to add. Creepy Crawlers Machine. Also in Sarge's Heroes 1, this time in the Gulag mission where you rescue Shrap. The Tan Army are turning gray soldiers into spiders, and you have to stop them before they can do the same to your friend Shrap. What's interesting is that they're using a Creepy Crawlers Machine to accomplish their goal. A toy that really did turn plastic into toy bugs. I'm sure kids who had these in the 90s would appreciate the reference. Barracks Hidden Picture. This is exclusive to the Dreamcast port of Sarge's Heroes 1. In the first mission, you can go into a barracks and angle your camera just right to clip into one of the beams of the barracks and see an image of a young girl. Not clear who this is, but presumably it's the daughter or maybe granddaughter of somebody on the development team. Interacting with a boombox to change the music. This refers to a detail in Sarge's Heroes 2, where you can interact with a boombox in the cashier level to change the music that plays throughout the level. Getting locked in the gulag. Alright, so this is one I found myself as a kid. Remember the gulag level I talked about where they're turning people into spiders? Well, the map is divided up into these different block sections full of buildings, and in some of the buildings there are gray soldiers who have been confined to jail cells. If you open the lever next to the cell, the soldier will be able to go free and will help you throughout the rest of the level. Also, just as a cool aside, if you bring the gray army guys over to the helipad, they'll actually stay there and guard the helipad until you come back with Shrap. It just seems like a neat detail since they'd have to go out of their way to program this. It'd be a lot easier for them to just follow you around forever, right? Anyways, the cell will eventually close back on its own after you open it. A lot of times the Tan Army has left ammunition or grenades in the cell that you can pick up. You know, as you do when you're holding prisoners, give them grenades. If you go in the cell and then let it close on you, you'll be trapped inside. Rather than just soft locking the player or killing them, the developers programmed a special little cutscene here where General Plastro will enter the building and mock Sarge for becoming trapped, followed by a unique mission loss. Plastered Green Soldier in Cashier. So, a prominent theme in Sarge's Heroes 2 is plasterification, the process by which a toy soldier trapped in the real world will slowly lose the ability to move and become plastered. In the Cashier level, as soon as you spawn, instead of proceeding, turn around and go back behind where you spawned. You'll find a green soldier in the process of becoming plastrified. He'll ask for help, but there's nothing you can do for him at this point. There's also a tan soldier becoming plastered in the desk level, but he's a lot more obvious to spot during normal gameplay. Infinite Huey Error. In Army Men Air Attack, that's the PlayStation and PC port of Air Combat, the YouTuber Joe Daylight Gaming showcased a bug in which way too many green Hueys start spawning and never stop, flooding the level and lagging out the game. Pool Table Easter Egg. Exclusively in the PlayStation version of Sarge's Heroes 2, in the pool level, if you ignore the mission and do some jumps instead, you can reach the villainous Bridget Blue, as well as Sarge's love interest, Vicky Grimm, who's being held captive. If you jump in and try to rescue Vicky, she and Bridget will team up and kill Sarge with grenade launchers. Upon killing him, they'll celebrate by jumping side to side in some kind of dance. Portal Runner Real Life Corruption. So, the game Portal Runner is a sequel to Sarge's Heroes, taking place after Sarge's Heroes 2, where the player controls Vicky Grimm, Sarge's love interest. Long story short, the game wasn't very good. So, the gaming magazine GamePro published a review saying just that. The game wasn't good. The problem with this was that 3DO was a major advertiser and source of income for GamePro. 3DO's president, Trip Hawkins, wrote a letter to GamePro saying that most of GamePro's editorial staff are angry young men that are poorly trained and represent a narrow and anarchistic element of the world's population. He further said, "It reminds me of boys at junior high school dance with their fragile egos. They stay on the sideline and say the band sucks, the girls are ugly, and that those brave enough to dance are lousy dancers." Hawkins threatened to pull all advertising from GamePro as revenge for daring to give his company's game a bad score. He pretty much said that GamePro should worry less about being honest with customers and more about pleasing their advertisers in the games industry. It was quite a fiasco at the time, but many people, myself included, who grew up playing the games probably never heard about this. Red and Orange Armies. The Army Men games are traditionally about the Green Army versus the Tan Army. Occasionally, the Gray and Blue are also involved in a more limited capacity. However, in Sarge's Heroes 2, Plastro mentions that once he's finished conquering the Green Nation, he wants to conquer the Red and Orange Nations as well. In the PlayStation ports of Sarge's Heroes 1, the Gulag level replaces Gray prisoners with Red ones. Personally, I think this is probably because the pre-rendered cutscenes taking place at nighttime would have a really hard time distinguishing the Gray and Tan colors due to the lighting style used. In the Dreamcast version, they're back to Gray. Although Red and Orange would appear as selectable options for multiplayer modes in future games like Army Men RTS, they would have no role in the story of any game besides Sarge's Heroes 1 and 2. Black Army. Building on that last point about the Red and Orange armies, in the game Toys in Space, we see the Green and Tan armies fighting alongside allied factions from outer space. The Galactic Army, who are blue in gameplay and a sort of silvery blue in official artwork, and the Space Aliens, who are orange. In one particular mission, Alien Onslaught, Sarge is assigned to rescue as many civilians as possible, with the civilians being represented with a black color. It's unclear if this implies a larger black nation exists somewhere. There are also black body parts in the zombies in Army Men 2. If there is a larger nation, they make no further appearance beyond that and are never referenced again. Air Tactics Unused Team Colors. Relating to the earlier two entries about the other army colors, the game Air Tactics uses an internal color override to color sprites. That makes sense. I mean, you'd no doubt be a lot more efficient with how much space you're using to store sprites, having just one sprite sheet for each unit and then adding the color on after. Anyways, there's green, tan, gray, and blue as you'd expect. Oddly enough, there's also a black and red option. Were these two factions originally intended to appear in the storyline of this game? Well, I think it's just as likely that they just had some other thing besides plastic world units that they wanted to be able to change the color of at will, and that these two team colors weren't intended to be used on helicopters or army men. But either way, it's just speculation. Attack Mode. A lot of video game cheat sites list the code Colonel Grimm, which supposedly unlocks Attack Mode. I've seen YouTubers try this code and be confused as to what it does, as there's no obvious change.
The code for all characters in multiplayer mode works too, and so does the attack mode cheat, though I couldn't actually figure out what it does. It accepts it as valid, if nothing else, but it doesn't unlock any new single or multiplayer game modes. Maybe it makes the enemies attack more viciously? I really couldn't notice any differences, though.
What the code actually does is unlock Attack, which is the name of the first mission in the game. Obviously, a cheat code to unlock the first mission is completely pointless, hence why many people misunderstand the code. Why there's a code to unlock the first mission at all, I don't know. Maybe they originally intended for you to have to beat boot camp before playing the main campaign? Who knows? And that's the first part of the iceberg done. Now we're gonna get on to some more interesting stuff, but aren't you glad it wasn't padded out with obvious stuff like entire games or main characters as entries like some icebergs have? If you're enjoying the video so far, you can leave a like to let the algorithm know. Scary Face. The Scary Face is a creepy Easter egg exclusive to the Dreamcast version of Sarge's Heroes 1. YouTuber Sizable Door says he discovered this Easter egg when he was just 4 years old. He was playing Sarge's Heroes on the Dreamcast when he found a disturbing image of a man's face modified by some kind of surgery hidden somewhere within the game. For 20 years he was unable to prove his sighting to anyone. Although he told several people over the years, none believed him. He said it plagued him that no one else had ever heard of this, so in 2019, he emulated the game and finally rediscovered the secret. In the mission where you rescue Scorch, you have to go to the portal. Instead of going through the portal, turn to the right and there's a garden wall. There's a small alcove where the dirt terrain dips low enough that you can go prone and crawl under part of the wall, into the hollow interior. You can now stand up and find yourself in a room with some kind of grotesque Easter egg featuring a man's head that appears to be stapled to some kind of bulbous flesh growth.
Alright, right here. Right here. Right? And then you get down, you crawl under. Holy shit, I did it. I fucking did it. Look at this. This has been undiscovered. I swear to God, it's been undiscovered since this game first came out. I swear to God, I'm probably the only person that's ever found this. And this shit plagued me my entire fucking life, dude. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'm freaking out. I finally have it on video evidence. I'm about to put it on YouTube. Dude, oh.
It's very unclear why anyone would ever think to include this in a children's game about toy soldiers. Can you imagine being 4 and seeing this? I'm not sure whose face this is either. Probably the most disturbing and graphic Easter egg on this iceberg. Only you can prevent forest fires. So, in the original Army Men games, some players would report leaving their game unpaused for a few minutes, going AFK, and coming back to find Sarge melted next to a burned down tree. The cause of this is actually an Easter egg that can rarely trigger by random chance, where a tree will catch fire and burn down, followed by "Only you can prevent forest fires" appearing in your radio log. Nessie in Alpine Campaign. According to a Steam Easter egg guide by Dark Sky Empire, in the original Army Men game, in level 1-1 of the Alpine campaign, quote, "Sometimes you can see a Nessie appears." If there's a specific way to activate this and make it happen, nobody online seems to know it. It seems to just be a random chance whenever you play this level. Dove Shadow Airstrike. Again, in the original Army Men game, when you call in an airstrike, you can see the shadow of the plane passing over you as it carries out the strike. However, there's a very, very small chance for this to be replaced with the shadow of a dove. If there's something specific that triggers this, it isn't documented online. Bayou Ancient Temple. Another secret from the original Army Men. For this one, you have to play level 1-1 of the Bayou campaign. According to Dark Sky Empire's Easter egg hunting guide on Steam, the only way to make this appear is to get your health critical, yellow or red on the health bar, and then approach a specific black tree, which will make the temple materialize. Flying PT Boat. In Army Men World War Final Front, also released as Army Men Lock and Load, there's a mission where you have to uncouple a boat trailer from a tan cargo truck by hitting the truck with a bazooka. The driver of the truck will fall out on the ground and the trailer will roll away. If you ignore the trailer and hit the driver with the bazooka, at first nothing will happen. However, if you persist and hit him again, the game will congratulate you on making a good choice and give you a flying PT boat that floats well above the ground, making the mission much easier to complete. Strafe Hover, detailed by Asu Karawi in his video on the history of Sarge's Heroes speedrunning, which I highly recommend. The Strafe Hover is a technique that allows you to hover for a small amount of time mid-air. You will still lose altitude as you do this, and you can still take the same amount of fall damage when you land, but it's useful for gliding over certain obstacles. Rising Storm 2 referenced Sarge's Heroes commercial. So there's a level in the game Rising Storm 2 with a giant Christmas tree and a nutcracker. The layout and composition of the level is actually based off Sarge's Heroes. Not anything in the actual game itself, but instead on a commercial.
Nutcracker. Introducing Army Men Sarge's Heroes, the biggest little war there is for the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation game consoles. Real combat, plastic men.
Checkpoint Reset. As you play Sarge's Heroes on Nintendo 64, the game will create checkpoints as you go. For example, in the Blue Spy level, the checkpoint is after apprehending the Blue Spy. To be clear, if you die, you don't restart from the checkpoint, you have to start the level over from the beginning anyways, so I'm not 100% sure what the purpose of the checkpoint system is, but if at any time you press R, L, and the down C button at the same time, your position will actually reset to the last checkpoint that you visited. This is mostly useful as a speedrun trick, and you can see more about the applicability of that in Asukarui's video. What's up? This is another Easter egg from Final Front, aka Lock and Load. At the end of the 9th mission, you can hug the right wall to avoid the hitbox that triggers the ending cutscene for the level. If you crouch down, you can pass through this doorway, activating this secret cutscene. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
I'm next in the queue.
Destroy Big Penguin. In the PlayStation version of Sarge's Heroes 2, there is a secret level called Destroy Big Penguin. There are only 2 references to this that I could find on the entire internet, one Neo-Seeker forums thread and one YouTube video uploaded by one Phoenix Jace with less than 300 views. Phoenix Jace also appears to be the only person on the internet who knows how to activate this secret level. Sorry about not recording any audio. Wanted to upload since I couldn't find anything on the internet showing that this exists. To access the level, you have to trigger something, then enter a cheat code in the main menu. Hold square plus L1 plus R1, then left, right. Stop holding those buttons after you hear a confirmation sound. Press start and it will load you into the level. After a few hours of testing, I've been able to load the level multiple times, but I have not yet figured out what event is triggering the code to work. I will mention it in a comment or re-upload the video as soon as I have confirmed it. I believe it is something to do with either completing the freezer mission, finishing the Air Attack 2 demo, the help menu, or even random chance. If you find out, please let me know. YouTube commentator Onye Nacho concurs that the unlock is beating the freezer level, for however much you want to count that. The level itself is just a big empty ice room with no objects or enemies. The only thing present is this enormous box of yum frozen eggs. Is the picture of the chicken on the box supposed to be the giant penguin? Your guess is as good as mine on this one. Tan Tank in Multiplayer Rumor. A 2024 Reddit post by Cold Initial 7515 reads as such. I was reading on the wiki today that it is possible for a Tan Tank to appear in a split-screen level on an unspecified game. This brought back a memory of my brother and I playing Sarge's Heroes on the PS1, and I swear there is an alternative split-screen level to the snow level that was a Christmas-decorated living room, and there was a Tan Tank that the second player could drive. It would also attack the green player on its own. Can anyone verify this? Any video, screenshot, or other evidence would be awesome. I could have sworn that it was real, but my memory might just be bad. A single anonymous editor on the wiki in 2014 did indeed add a section claiming, quote, "In one of the multiplayer maps, a Tan Tank makes an appearance. It is drivable to the Tan player, but can attack and try to run over the green player by itself, should he or she approach it, making it relatively unbalanced gameplay." Personally, I don't own this game, so I have no idea. I couldn't find any footage of this occurring, and no one in the Reddit thread actually responded to the original poster's question. If you played the PS1 version of Sarge's Heroes, is this something you can really find? I'll leave a comment. Dr. Mad Face. Starting in Army Men 2, we're introduced to a mad scientist character named Dr. Mad. In some games he's only mentioned, but in others there are cutscenes where we get to see what he looks like. But only from the neck down, or in the distance, or the back of his head. We never really get a good look at him. However, thanks to a leak of assets from Army Men Air Tactics, specifically Dr. Mad's model used for cutscenes, we get to see what his face looks like. And that's the second layer of the iceberg down. Just one left now. Disco Party. Another Final Front Easter egg. If you play the level Hit and Run, where you have to drive a Jeep, you can come up to this gate, pass through it, and then make a wide left turn, circling back around, where you can collide with this box. Doing so teleports you to a secret disco party. Here, disco soldiers dance around flashing between green, tan, and gray, while a disco ball hovers above the party. Death has come for you, Hawk. In the castle level of Sarge's Heroes 2, only in the PlayStation version, you can go all the way to near the end of the level where you meet up with Vicky and get attacked by a few waves of tan soldiers. Once you beat them all, instead of ending the level, backtrack. In a courtyard area, you'll find a red army man surrounded by 4 zombies, circling him in some kind of ritual. Sergeant Hawk will be shocked, asking, "What are those zombies doing to him?" All 4 zombies and the soldier will then explode, summoning one giant zombie as an optional secret boss fight, with the ominous text, "Death has come for you, Hawk," coming from the zombie? If you manage to beat the zombie, it will give you a hint to find a treasure room full of weapons in the final mission of the game. Although that room is trivial to find on its own and a lot more common knowledge than this strange sequence. Clean up this mess out of bounds. Here's a discussion I came across on the Neo Seeker forums. User Grasser says, "There is a number of secrets on the multiplayer maps in Army Men 3D on the PlayStation. There is a secret area on the Clean Up This Mess level. You can see boxes outside of the screen, and some people have said that they have accessed the area. There's also a key on the level, but nobody knows how to use it." Fellow Neo Seeker user Daryl Smith had the following to say: "It is not an unfinished area or a mistake. The keys and secret areas clearly have a purpose, and the secret area on Clean Up This Mess can be seen if you go to the edge of the closet. Also, I managed to get in there once. I may have been the only person in the world to actually get in there, but it happened. I was playing this game with my brother back in 2002 when I was about 11, and when you get to the other side of the closet, there are hundreds of boxes and secret weapons, but also over 10 tanks and about 60 men shooting at you. I had the choice to hide, but I was young back then and died. I have not been able to repeat what I did." As I said, it is possible to get in there, but I'm not sure about how to do it again. It has been over 10 years and I'm still trying to figure this out. A video linked in the thread from YouTube user Gruntzilla94 shows that with cheats, it is indeed possible to escape the boundaries of the map. Outside the normal map bounds are indeed a huge number of crates. The 60 men that are apparently supposed to appear and shoot at the player are nowhere to be found. Although there are 2 tanks, one tan and one green, with the tan tank being hostile to the green player. While you might assume that Daryl Smith is simply misremembering amidst the excitement of unlocking a new area, only to be blown up by a tank, don't be too quick to dismiss his claims. NeoSeeker forums user Midnight Seeker said the following. Shellbob53, in the video you show the guys using cheats. It is not the same. There are natural methods of getting out of the map even if they are glitches. There are a number of people who say on clean up this mess when they get out, a whole army of men appear, including the tanks. I understand that human memory is fallible and some people lie, but various people have reported this. It seems to have some element of truth to it. It is possible that there are different versions of the game, or whatever is built into the game is different than using cheats. Shellbob, who that message was addressed to, replied speculating that perhaps the 60 men were a difference between the US and PAL version releases of the game. Could the developers have noticed players managing to get out and made soldiers spawn in the out-of-bounds area intentionally to kill players who glitched out?
This isn't the last we'll see of Army Men 3D on this iceberg, so stay tuned for more. Gray Military Police Vicky. So in the first Sarge's Heroes game on Nintendo 64, there's a boot camp level, which is pretty much just a tutorial. If you kill any greens, they'll call out the MPs, resulting in Sarge instantly surrendering and losing the mission. You never see the MPs though. However, in the second game, also on Nintendo 64, killing all the green soldiers in boot camp will result in them sounding the alarm and declaring that Sarge has gone berserk. When you get out to the end of the level, where you'd normally exit, a Grey Army reskin of Vicky will appear with a bazooka blockading the exit door and trying to blow you up with rockets. She has a ton of health and can kill Sarge in one hit. Although difficult, it is possible to kill Grey Vicky with some effort. If you do manage to beat her, you're labeled a disgrace to the Green Army and you fail the mission anyways. Picture frame freaks. In the video 3 Strange Enemies in Army Men 3D, YouTuber Joe Daylight Gaming clips out of bounds and encounters some very strange enemies that appear to be framed pictures of tan soldiers with 3D guns. They are fully functional and attack players on the green team. Users in the comments speculated that perhaps they were placeholder designs, or were meant to appear in urban environments representing soldiers shooting from inside windows. Cabin Fever, out of bounds. Alright, so going back to that NeoSeeker post from Grasser. After the clean up this mess secret, he mentions something else interesting. On the level Cabin Fever, there is a way to get up on the mountain and get into a massive area where you can find 2 keys, information sheets, tanks and boxes, etc. The information sheets show a soldier shooting a rock? What does this mean? Is there a way to open up another secret area, etc.? How do you use the keys? Well, this seemed pretty interesting to me. Not the tanks and boxes, which we've already seen in the other level, but specifically the information sheet that shows a soldier shooting a rock. It seems like users took this to be some kind of hint towards a larger mystery involving these keys and the other out-of-bounds areas. Now, finding more info, videos, even just screenshots of this stuff was a lot harder than the previous entry. I did find a video called 3 Strange Things in Army Men 3D by Chaos Weaver, which does show an odd thing in Cabin Fever. When Chaos Weaver leaves the map by walking over the mountains, they're attacked by a tan army machine gunner, despite the fact that this is a multiplayer level. As for the information sheet, I unfortunately couldn't find any video or screenshots of that. If you're aware of any, leave a comment by all means. NPC Jeep in Army Men 3D. Going back to that video, 3 Strange Enemies in Army Men 3D, the second unusual enemy that appears is a fully functional NPC Jeep that will try to shoot the player with its machine gun. Similar to the picture frame enemies, they are only found in out-of-bounds areas.
It seems like this was a normal enemy design that was simply never completed and thus didn't make it into the regular game. Sand Castle Turrets. The third strange enemy from that same video. Going out of bounds in the level Calm Down, you can apparently come across this large sandcastle-like structure which is guarded by these 4 turret-like enemies which Joe refers to as arms. Army Men 3D certainly seems to be a very strange game with a lot of content that's been left hidden just outside the boundaries of where the player is normally able to go. Blue Ghost in City of the Dead. So, I mentioned this video, 3 Strange Things in Army Men 3D by Chaos Weaver, which the first 2 strange things he showcases are just out-of-bounds bits from Clean Up This Mess and Cabin Fever, which we already went over. The third odd thing, though, is in the mission City of the Dead. He uses a mortar to blow up this statue in the cemetery and then stands where the statue used to be and starts mortaring the path in front of him. Eventually, he seemingly hits some kind of invisible object, leaving blue chunks and smoke behind. Is there some kind of invisible blue enemy here that he's able to interact with in this limited capacity? Chaos Weaver himself provides no explanation beyond labeling this as one of the 3 strange things. People in the comments gave more grounded answers, though, speculating that this is just a bug that results from the game thinking the explosion occurred in water due to the water surrounding the path. Bridge Mystery. In the PlayStation port of Sarge's Heroes 2, on the bridge map where you have to stop the trains from crossing the bridge, there's a crate here you probably wouldn't pay much mind to. If you start throwing grenades at it, at first it's pretty durable. However, if you persist and keep attacking, it will eventually blow up. Walking through, you're teleported to a treasure room. You can grab the guns and warp out. Now that you're back out, go to this specific bush in this corner and shoot it with a sniper rifle. It'll make a human death sound. Now you can walk into the train tunnel and return to the treasure room. This time there's a blue spy waiting for you, with their health bar visible next to Vicky's in the top right corner. The blue spy has something to say to you. I helped you this time, but you and I will meet again. Shortly afterwards, the blue spy disappears. Seeing this Easter egg covered on Oddheader inspired me to make this iceberg in the first place, but Oddheader actually missed a good part of the secret. Once you leave the treasure room, the level is changed. It's now filled with giant tan soldiers, and there's a secret boss fight against a truly enormous tan soldier named Tanzilla, who can easily crush the player on contact. As for the blue spy meeting us again, it doesn't appear to actually be true, at least not as far as we've discovered. You could argue that he's actually Bridget Blue in disguise, as she is a blue spy and we do encounter her later in the game, but there's obviously not much of a resemblance between the two. We also already see Bridget in cutscenes prior to this, so it's not like they're trying to hide her design from the player until later. It could possibly be that the blue spy is the same one from the first game, but there's not really much evidence for that either, and we never meet him again in Sarge's Heroes 2. Could there be another hidden sequence in the game where the blue spy reappears? If so, it doesn't appear to have been found by the players. Alley of the Kings / Bowlin' for Tans. In Army Men World War Final Front for the PS1, and the Tank Command mission, play the level as normal up until the end. You come upon this ancient pyramid where you get out of your tank and you're supposed to walk through this doorway to proceed to the next mission, which takes place inside said pyramid. Instead of that, if you turn to the right and walk through this gap in the wall, you can follow this passageway to reach the Alley of the Kings. This is a bowling alley themed area where you unlock a minigame called Bowling for Tans. You're given a grenade and instructed to get 3 strikes against a group of 10 tan soldiers. Thankfully, they have no AI and won't shoot back or move. Each time you blow up all 10 tans with a single grenade, you get 1 strike. After each grenade, they respawn above the lane and are dropped down for you to try again. Getting all 3 strikes gives you an alternate exit from the level. Gorilla in the town map. Is there a gorilla that appears after a while on the multiplayer map Town on Sarge's Heroes on the Nintendo 64? This is the kind of question that is less likely to be answered with no and more likely to be answered with what? But on the 24th of January 2010, some unknown user with no account created a page on the Army Men wiki to ask that exact question. This seems way too vague to be an attempt at creating a hoax. It comes off a lot more as someone who's heard a rumor somewhere and is now asking about it online to see if it's true. All we really have to go off is that this is a time-based event that occurs after a while, that it occurs specifically on the Nintendo 64 version, and that it happens on the Town multiplayer map. There is a map called Town in the PvP game mode, but I've never heard of there being a gorilla on that or any other map, nor any NPC appearing in a multiplayer game mode for that matter. The players are the only entities moving around during the multiplayer mode. But hey, I mean, there's a lot of weird and obscure stuff on here, so could this be true? Well, the game manual lists all the enemies: tan soldiers, tan tanks, tan helicopters, ants, spiders, and the giant V-bots. No gorilla. Although, also absent from this list is the blue tank, which appears in the second level, coincidentally the same one that the assets in the town map are reused from. And if it's a secret, it would make sense that it wouldn't be included here. Normally, the multiplayer rounds end after one player gets enough kills, so it does in theory make sense that something hidden could be unlocked by hanging around the map for a long time. I did play the map a little bit, but there was never a point at which a gorilla appeared. So, is there a gorilla that appears after a while on the multiplayer map Town in Sarge's Heroes on Nintendo 64? Well, I haven't personally seen any evidence of that, but I'd be saying much the same about a lot of these entries if it weren't for someone happening to stumble across them and post about it online. So, who knows? So that's the Army Men Iceberg. If you ever thought kids in the 90s and early 2000s were silly because we thought we could unlock Luigi and Super Mario 64 with some kind of ridiculous sequence of events, just keep in mind that we really could unlock a boss fight against a giant by shooting a bush that makes a human scream and then throwing 8 grenades in a row onto a box. Also, I honestly think that there might still be more Army Men secrets out there to find. The Destroy the Penguin thing isn't mentioned on the cutting room floor article for Sarge's Heroes 2, or basically anywhere else. I stumbled onto this obscure YouTube video by complete chance while making the iceberg. The only reason we have any documentation of this secret is because one person somehow managed to discover it and decided to upload a video of it onto YouTube. Similar things could be said for many of the secrets on this iceberg. There could be a lot of strange stuff out there that nobody has found or uploaded onto the internet yet, just waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this iceberg reading, like the video, or if you didn't, leave a dislike and comment what could be better. And subscribe if you want to see more content like this.